Seeker. Written by Suzana Thompson. Performed by Heather Firth. Chapter 48. We missed the sunset, but we sit on our balcony as we eat the dinner we ordered from room service. The moon casts a glow on the water, and we hear the sound of the ocean. It is beautiful here, and it is wonderful to be here with Silas. Our connection feels complete, and I am happy as any other bride on her honeymoon. The pain of joining our bodies was soothed by being held in Silas's arms afterward. "I'm sorry," he told me. "I tried to be as gentle as I could, but there was no way to make the tearing of the hymen easier. It will be much better for you next time." "I know," I said as I snuggled back against him. Chloe told me. I had a flash of memory then of her telling me that it hurt like hell. In the next instant, Silas's remark about trying to be gentle during my first time triggered a realization. "How did you know that I was a virgin?" He had said that he didn't care when I asked him if he wanted to know if I'd had sex. "Chloe was thinking about it that day," he replied. "She was planning to tell you the truth about Scott, because she didn't want you to lose your virginity to him." I'm gratified to know that Chloe was going to confess everything to me. Silas had said that she felt guilty about her betrayal, and now I knew that our friendship still meant something to her. She had cared enough about me to face the consequences of her actions. She was going to admit blame rather than risk me making a mistake with Scott. With this information, I get a real sense of closure for the unfinished business with Chloe. I put my full attention back on Silas. "So, you knew this whole time that I was a virgin. What if I wasn't?" I inquired. "Would it bother you?" I know that through most of history, girls were expected to remain virgins until marriage. Silas was around long before the start of feminism, and his adherence to the Bible also forbids premarital sex. "It would not matter to me," he answered. "I love you, Mila, and I feel blessed to have you as my wife." I tried to flip it around and imagine how I would feel if Silas had slept with another girl before we got together, but I couldn't really picture it. I didn't like it when that woman at his apartment building kissed him, but I also hadn't felt like she could be as important to him as I was. I've never felt as confident with any other guy as I do with Silas, and I've never been a confident person to begin with. Chloe had carried me along on her confidence, but I stood on my own strength with Silas. I never doubted myself with him. Maybe it was because I'd had that connection to him since childhood, before issues with self-confidence had crept in with puberty. Or maybe it was because Silas was always so blunt and honest. I didn't have to question if he meant what he said. His desire to be with me was real and true. Although it had taken me longer to desire him, he had instantly been a part of my life when he became human, and I hadn't wanted to let go of him. Now we shared an intimacy that neither of us had ever shared with anyone else, and it did feel like we belonged together. With the sexual tension between us having been assuaged, there was a contentment as we spooned naked in bed. After a while, hunger stirred us from our relaxed state. We took quick showers before ordering food from room service. I dressed in shorts and a t-shirt while Silas was in the shower, and I removed the comforter we had made love upon from the bed and dropped it into a corner. It would have to be washed, and I would put it in a pile with the dirty towels later. Once our food arrived, we went out on the balcony to enjoy our surroundings. When we first arrived, my focus had been on no other destination besides our hotel room. But I am now looking forward to walking down to the beach tomorrow and enjoying the beauty of the island. We go to bed early, and I wake up rested and eager to start the day. After eating the complimentary breakfast provided by the hotel, we change into our swimsuits. I put on shorts and a t-shirt over my bikini, while Silas exchanges his regular shorts for swim trunks. They are the same ones he wore in Florida last summer, but I now know what he looks like beneath them. The warmth spreading through my body has nothing to do with the heat of the sun, as Silas takes his shirt off on the beach. I feel the heavy tension between us after I remove my t-shirt and shorts. Silas's potent gaze is almost as arousing as his touch. I'm surprised that the anticipation is just as exciting to me as yesterday. The thrill of kissing Scott hadn't been as intense after the first time. I had believed that the initial excitement of doing anything could never be duplicated. But my body is tingling with the remembrance of how it felt to have Silas touch me intimately. Immersing myself in the ocean does nothing to distract me from my erotic thoughts, and the sensation of the water only seems to heighten my arousal. The kiss Silas gives me is hot, but the way he looks at me is hotter, and we don't wait to dry off when we emerge from the water and wrap our towels around ourselves. Silas carries the beach bag I brought containing the sunscreen we haven't applied yet, and the clothes we recently removed. We're still dripping droplets of water as we return to our room. I start to hang my towel on the shower curtain rod in the bathroom, but Silas haphazardly flings his over it and whirls me around for a passionate kiss. Our wet bodies press against each other, and I feel how hard and ready he is for me. The ache between my legs is slightly reminiscent of the pain I experienced yesterday, but my desire still makes me crave him again. We stop kissing long enough to leave the bathroom and walk the short distance to the bed. I remove my bikini top, and Silas leans down to take a sensitive peek into his mouth. The moist heat of his tongue on my cold skin makes me moan. I feel the absence of his mouth as soon as he removes it from my breast, while the other one is anticipating the same pleasure. He pulls down my bikini bottom, exposing me to the cool air in the air-conditioned room, and he gently pushes me to sit down on the bed. I begin to reach for his swim trunks, but he tells me to lie down. He divests himself of the last barrier holding us back from skin-on-skin contact, but he doesn't join me on the bed. "Come closer," he says after he kneels down on the floor. I rise up on my knees to crawl down the bed to him, thinking that he wants a kiss. It feels naughty to kiss him while I'm naked in this position on my hands and knees on top of the bed, and I'm even more aroused than I was yesterday. Silas then has me lay down on my back again, but this time my butt is near the edge of the bed, and I have to bend my knees to keep my feet up on the mattress. I've barely gotten situated before Silas shocks me by dipping his head between my legs. I gasp when I feel his tongue there. Before I can protest, he finds a spot that makes me moan with the intense pleasure of every minute motion of his tongue. The intensity builds to an almost unbearable level, and he holds me down as I writhe and moan with abandon. My first orgasm is more powerful than I ever imagined it could be, and I lose myself completely in it. Silas stands up and watches me as I catch my breath. His gaze is still heated, and I sit up and reach for him, touching the hard length of him for the first time. His sharp intake of breath is followed by a moan as I continue to gently handle him. He eases me back onto the bed, and I scoot up so that his body can fit with mine. I'm still sore from the loss of my virginity yesterday, but my body accepts him more easily now. Silas locks eyes with me, and I watch his face in fascination until his own climax overtakes him, and he closes his eyes with the force of it. We lie side by side afterwards, and he strokes my arm. A warm smile is on his face as he gazes at me. I smile back at him in contentment. "How did you learn to do that?" I ask after a moment. What you did to me earlier. I elaborate and gesture toward my nether region. Did you like it? He inquires, even though it must have been obvious that I did. Yeah, I exclaim enthusiastically. He laughs in amusement at my response. I thought you would. I know what that feels like for a woman. How do you know? I question suspiciously, suddenly unsure of how inexperienced he is. I've experienced it in the memories of some of the dying. He replies. What? I screech. What? I repeat in disbelief. They were thinking about that when they were dying? They weren't necessarily thinking of it in that moment, but I often glimpsed recent memories. Some of them happen to be sexual. He tells me nonchalantly. I gape at him. That's... I falter for words to describe how bizarre that is. I didn't know Death was a pervert. I blurt in sudden indignation. Did it turn you on? I demand. You misunderstand, he says. Their memories weren't sexual to me. They were the same as any sensory memories the dying had. The splatter of raindrops on skin, the warmth of the sun, the feel of a breeze, even burning your hand on something hot. They were just varying sensations. How could sex be the same as those other things? I question in a demanding tone. Sex is a lot different than feeling a raindrop on your skin. I know that now, he tells me, but the differences weren't significant to me before I was human. The sensations also weren't as intense as experiencing them myself. The memories of others were brief and muted. I didn't know how cold snow really is until I touched it myself. I'm somewhat mollified by his description of the sensations being muted. But you got an idea of what it was like? I now ask in curiosity. Yes, he replies, and I knew how to do it from corresponding memories. Corresponding, I ponder aloud. You mean guys' memories of doing that to their wives? Or lesbian memories of making love to their girlfriends? He says matter-of-factly. I'm left speechless by this revelation. It sounds like he spent history immersed in an endless porno movie, and I'm not happy about it. It's hard for me to believe that he wasn't aroused by these explicit memories. What guy wouldn't be? He guesses my feelings by the expression on my face. You don't know what life force is like, he tells me. It drew us to the dying like thirsty men to water. The memories of the dying were things we noticed, like you notice the scenery as you drive past it. But life force is what we sought. It was the only thing that mattered to us. I remember his expressionless countenance all the times I saw him before he was human. There had been no emotion evident on his face at all. Thinking about that helps me accept his claim that he didn't feel anything sexual while he was attending to the dying, as he called it. Even as a human, he kept things from becoming sexual between us until we got married. He certainly hasn't been holding back since then, and it has been a thrilling change in our relationship. Waiting to have sex has made everything about marriage new and exciting for us. We are completely caught up in each other, and we indulged in our passion again that afternoon. Being married allows us to be alone together whenever we want, and we don't have to wait for the cover of night to sneak away to our room. Stripping off my clothes in the middle of the day and revealing my body to Silas in the brightness of the sunlight streaming in through the balcony door adds an element of seduction to our lovemaking. It heightens my confidence in my sex appeal, and I straddle him on the bed in my uninhibited enjoyment of my sensuality. He's watching me with a sultry gaze as I run my hands over his chest. I'm sitting on his stomach, and I lean down to kiss him. His hands grasp my rear and squeeze as our kiss deepens. I take my time savoring the kiss, and he doesn't rush me. I get an erotic charge from his hard grip, while I keep the kiss slow and sensual. My tongue retreats and swipes lightly over his lower lip, and he moans. His response spurs me into taking control of our lovemaking, so I sit up to maneuver myself into position. Silas's hold on me loosens, and I raise my body up while grasping onto his thighs behind me. He sees my intent and helps me slide down on top of him. It feels different from this angle, and I'm able to control the pace. I set a slower rhythm to draw out the pleasure longer. Silas appears to be mesmerized by watching me move on top of him. His eyes hold my gaze, then slide down to my breasts before moving back up to my face. As my pleasure begins to intensify, I start to move faster. I'm moaning as I near my climax, and I cry out Silas's name right before it breaks over me. I'm still coming down from the peak when he moans loudly with his own release. "Oh, Mila," he pants. "Oh, that was incredible." "I wish I knew what it felt like for you," I say. "It felt good," he tells me. "It felt so good." I climb off of him and lay down to snuggle into him with my arm across his chest. Our bodies fit together so perfectly. I marvel after the total bliss I just experienced. "It's like you were made for me." "Maybe I was," he says. "Maybe you were." I agree, in thoughtful contemplation of the possibility.